My name is Max Stein, and I love video games.
I'm the Megabuck. I really love video games.
My name is Raph, and I also love video games.
Happy Friday, friends. Vinny here, and I love video games.
And welcome to the Game Treasure Podcast, where we discuss treasured video games of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Today's docket, it is a Sega CD Carousel. That's right. Go collect some member berries, because we're just going to be doing a whole lot of remembering today. I will preface that Raph and I have probably played 3 Sega CD games total between the two of us. So
It's the Megabuck and Vinny show.
we're gonna sit this one out, and we're gonna let the Megabuck and Mr. Venicora take us for a ride.
I'm excited.
So they're gonna be picking the console carousel, of course, the segment where we pick our top 5 favorite games for a given console. Maybe not the best 5, but their favorite 5. So this week, the Sega CD. We'll get more on that later, but before we do, I did want to cover real quick some video game news. Top story, I would say, is Annapurna Games Division is gone.
They walked out.
It's just gone crazy. Like that. The Annapurna Interactive is what it's called, I believe. The guy who's in charge of its name is Nathan Gary. And he was apparently negotiating with the founder of Annapurna, because you got to remember they also make movies and cartoons and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Right.
Megan Ellison, and they were talks about spinning the gaming division off basically into its own company, and then that fell through. The talks fell through, and Gary walked. And then, like the next day or the very same day, all 25 team members left. They resigned, which is bonkers to me. I also find it crazy that Annapurna only has 25 team members, seeing as how they have made games like Cocoon, Stray, Neon White, Kentucky Route Zero, Journey, Outer Wilds, Donut County, and What Remains of Edith Finch. And that's only some of the games that they've made.
Explain to me again how Sony spent $200 million on Concord.
That's
Man, I didn't know they did Donut County. That's
Isn't
a
that
gem.
crazy?
Yeah, me neither.
That's a gem.
Yeah. I've
I
played
didn't
Outer
really-
Wilds, and that game's awesome.
I had forgot they did Outer Wilds, and I was like, oh, I knew they
Mhm.
did Journey. Journey's one of my favorite games of all time, but
I didn't even know they
Kentucky
did that
Route
one.
Zero. You guys ever played Kentucky Route Zero?
No.
That
I
game
have a
is
physical Switch copy.
wild,
Yeah.
very spooky and moody, and it's great storytelling. Great, it's like reading an interactive or playing an interactive book or something. It's really badass. But yeah, so
Do you think that they're gonna go the way that like Valve did? Like at Valve, I think was like a bunch of like old Microsoft employees that ended up leaving. Or at least Gabe Newell, I think, was an old Microsoft employee, just left and then started their own thing. Or do like the Image Comics thing, like a bunch of Marvel writers just
Right.
leave and start a whole new company. You think they're gonna do that?
I was hoping so. Well, I was
That
going
would
to
get
ask
Todd
that same
McFarlane on the
question.
phone. Ask him how this works.
I think they'll go
Yeah,
out,
call 'em up.
get some money, and start their own little studio. Such a few amount of people. Cocoon was that game with the bugs where you put the world inside the other world thing from last year. That game fucking whoops ass.
Right? Yeah.
I love that studio. So that's sad. Sad to hear. Hopefully it comes back in some sort of fashion, like you're saying. Anyhow, PS5 Pro
I'm sorry.
was
I
just
couldn't help
announced.
but laugh.
Last week, it's Concord. This
Sorry.
week, it's the fact that Sony's rubbing in my face that I'll never freaking get to play the PS5. Everything's so expensive. Too expensive.
My
for
favorite
me.
was the Dr. Manhattan meme that was like, the year is 2006. The PlayStation 3 it costs $600. There's no exclusive games. The year is 2024. The PlayStation 5 is $700. There's no exclusive games.
Yeah,
You guys
that's
won't
right.
get upgrades, right?
No, God, no.
I don't see any
No,
reason why you would.
I'm not interested at all. There's not enough
Yeah.
justification. The hardware is already so strong on the PS5. The processor remains unchanged, and really, it's just more of like
Yeah.
it's already awesome. Like, we don't really need any more awesome for our games to look that good. It's overkill. I
In
In
really
the
$700
world
think
where
so.
you only need a new graphics card, even for a good gaming PC, every like 6 to 7 years right now,
Right,
you
yeah.
don't need a console upgrade every 3 years.
It's $700. Does not come with a CD disk drive, not CD, but doesn't come with a disk drive, and doesn't even come with the damn stand to stand it up.
Those disk drives are selling
know,
out like crazy
I
too.
saw this picture on X. Some dude got some thin electrical tape and just electrical taped 3 stripes or 2 extra stripes on his PlayStation 5. It's like PS5 Pro achieved.
That's
You know, like I'm a Sony guy. I love Sony, but dude, why? This is bizarre. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a money grab. It feels like
It's
I
them
don't know.
sitting in a room going, the PS5s are selling out like crazy. It's like, no, they
Yeah.
sold out like crazy because you didn't make enough and COVID. Like, you can't
Right.
Yeah.
take those anomalies into account and think
Right.
that this is how things work now.
This might be a stupid question, but will it make the price of the regular PS5 go down at all, or no?
I don't know.
I think that's a good question,
Yeah,
actually. I
think
don't
it's a
know
great
if it
question
will.
for sure,
That would be
yeah.
really cool. I don't think it will, right? Because it's not like it's in place of. It's not like the PS6 came out and everyone's trying to sell it. I
mean,
think
the
it's like
smart thing-
everyone's gonna be thinking like us and being like, I don't think I need that upgrade. Literally, Donkey made a whole video where he just roasting it
love him. He's
about
so
like,
funny.
oh yeah, like look how much better the graphics are. It's incredible.
And
like
you can't tell.
yeah, you can't. And then,
Can't
well,
tell at all.
he keeps switching back to old PS1 games and going, this is the regular PS5. Ooh, look how bad it is. And it's Crash Bandicoot on the PS1.
That's such a donkey thing
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
But then it's the irony is that
honestly, all of it
he
is.
plays like some oh god, what's that famous PS1 racing game? Not Ridge
Ridge
Racer.
Racer? Oh, not Ridge Racer.
Oh yeah, I guess it is Ridge Racer, and it looks amazing. And he's like, "Oh, look how bad this looks." It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I
looks
guess
good.
the graphics don't really. Anyhow, PS5 Pro, I'll never see you. So hopefully, I'll get a PS5. And then finally, sad news that I feel like I have to say because it just happened this week. James Earl Jones passed
Oh,
away.
I knew you were gonna say that.
All right, Peter
James
Real.
Earl Jones. I don't even have to say who he was to most of you guys,
Yeah.
Darth Vader, but
Well, you're
to
over.
me, he will always and forever be Omadon the Red Wizard from the movie Flight of
Yes, we
Dragons.
covered that on our
Yes,
stream.
I
last
won't
night,
expound
or
upon
last
that
week.
because once I start, I won't be able to stop. But I'll throw up some pictures or some videos of one of the
You
best
wanna-
monologues
Yeah.
of all animated filmdom, which is Omadon's table monologue in Flight of the Dragons, voiced by James Earl Jones.
If you want to hear Matt gush about it, they did a stream last night on YouTube, and there was a good 5 minutes dedicated to this. So go
Last
check
week
it
at
out.
the end of the episode. Yeah.
I was crying.
Absolutely.
No,
If,
on the
yeah.
stream last night. I was just on the
Yeah,
stream
yeah,
last
This
night.
episode comes out next week, so it was last week's stream.
Oh,
right,
you're right,
exactly.
yeah,
That's true.
I'm in a time machine.
True, yeah.
I don't want to overshadow it, and I certainly don't want to discount him passing away, but Peter Renaday also passed away. That is the original voice of Master Splinter on Ninja Turtles.
Oh, I saw
Animated.
you posted that up. That
Which
is
is
also tragic.
A really big bummer in my world too. So,
Yeah.
These things happen in threes, so who's going next?
oh no!
That's,
Oh, boy,
that's
don't
what
say
scares me. Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for newsworthy video game topics. Let's give these guys a wide berth to gush about this insanely obscure video game system. When we come back, Megabuck will explain to us what the heck the Sega CD is. We'll be right back.
While your powers die, mine will flourish. Man will never inherit my domain, for I am making man mine. He will understand and come to desire my magic. It is inevitable. You shall see. This dark determination I swear. By this red crown, source of all my dark power, so be it, now and forever. Farewell! Can you not feel the world turning in my direction already?
Okay, Buck, our in-game historian. What is the Sega CD?
Take it away.
What the heck's the Sega CD?
We've actually covered the Sega CD before
Many
because I
times,
can't
yes.
talk about video games without talking about the Sega CD. So you guys have seen previous episodes or other, history kind of episodes on video games. You know that there was the whole deal between with the add-on for the Super Nintendo, and then Sony shopped around to Sega after Nintendo turned it down. The Super Nintendo PlayStation, as it were. But then it made Sega say we should make a CD console, and then they obviously started developing one. There's a weird history behind this thing, though. It was being developed internally by Sega Japan. And at the time, Sega was pretty big in America, so they had a pretty big presence over here, corporate wise as well.
Mhm.
And Sega Japan was so paranoid about either leaks or whatever. Like, they didn't want this to get out to the other companies because they wanted to be the only other person that had a CD system. The Turbo Graphics had a CD system by this time, and they were trying to compete with that because they thought that was going to be big. It is a pretty cool
Right.
system.
Okay.
And so Sega Japan would not share like any details with Sega America. Like, there's executives that go on record saying they just wouldn't tell us anything. They would send us dummy units, like shells of a unit that did nothing, just to show it off, but no tech specs, no nothing. And so it's funny when I learned about this, Venny, because it made a lot of sense, because it also meant that dev kits were sent out very late to lots of developers to make games for it. Part of the reason why so many of the Digital Pictures games were there and early and good is because Digital Pictures was one of the few companies they partnered with to make. They're the guys that made Night Trap and a dozen other games for the console, Sewer Shark and all these. And that's why they have so many of those, right? So the Sega CD went through quite a few iterations. The original one boasting a whopping 12.5 megahertz Motorola processor.
That's a big boy right there,
12.5. The 0.5 is important. But the earlier units, they were trying so hard to develop this thing, not necessarily on the cheap, but they wanted certain components to be good, like the processor, the sound chip, things like that. And other components, they were like, can we be cheap on this? And I'm going to show off the first bad boy.
This bad boy.
This is it's heavy. This is the Tower of Power. This is the Sega CD version 1 with a Sega Genesis version 1 on top with a Sega 32X on top as well.
Whoa, I would love to describe. Can you describe to any listeners what Buck is holding right now?
I mean, it is just
In
a
layman's terms.
multi-storied black box.
Weighs like 10 pounds.
Technology, yeah. It's got a big thick boy on the bottom, a little medium boy on the in the middle,
and an extra
It's like a
cable for the
Dagwood sandwich.
So
yeah,
Dagwood sandwich.
You know,
Scooby
it looks
Doo's
like
gonna come in here and make like an accordion sound with it. And
it
then
looks
eat
like an old phone, like that you'd see in an office.
Oh wait, we're
It's
gonna get there.
Wild.
So on the earlier ones, so if you guys don't know, CD-ROM drives, like in computers, and audio CD drives, like in your CD player, are different, let's say, caliber of CD drives. The hardware is much different than one another. The difference being a CD for music, it only has to switch tracks every so often, right? And then it plays the music off the laser. A CD drive inside of a CD-ROM drive in a computer has to switch tracks a lot to read data all over the place.
Right.
So in the original prototypes of this, they tried to use an audio CD drive to be cheaper. And one of the engineers has gone on record as saying, we were having a lot of problems with that. We were trying to keep it. We had a lot of failures. And when I say failures, like we had some catch fire. Because all the motors and gears would overheat from changing tracks so often. They weren't built for that at all.
Wow.
This honkin' beast is called the Tower of Power for a couple of reasons. One, it is a tower of console, that's for sure. This was so you could play Sega 32X games, and there were 5 Sega CD 32X games, believe it or not. That took. You kids that know like N64, think of this as like the expansion pack for the N64. This had like the extra memory and processing power in it and whatnot too. But the thing was, on the back here, you had to feed the video cable from the 32X to the Genesis because you used the video output from the 32X. But here's the thing. The Genesis needs a power cable, like a power brick, right? So does the Sega CD.
Okay.
So does the 32X.
Awesome.
So what's stopping this thing from still bursting into flames?
You need 3.
Because
Well, they
that's
ended
so
up
much.
upgrading the hardware a little bit, so it's a little more hardy there.
Right,
But the amount of imagine you're in like 1992, 93. Go ahead and find me a power strip that could take 3 chonkin power bricks.
Is it also called the Tower of Power because you could establish dominance by beating?
That's
because
everybody. Because if you put a Game Genie on top of this thing, you could
huge.
travel through time.
You could defend your home against a home invasion just with that thing. Just clocking people on the head.
You're meant to praise Zeus at its
That's right.
feet. I think.
So Sega didn't know exactly how to do this with the hardware, just because the CD portion of it was so much more customizable than the cartridge port was. Cartridge ports were proprietary, right? They were different from every console to cassette to VCR even. But with CDs and discs, they're kind of all the same, right? And so they started changing and morphing the process of this console too. So here is a Sega CD version 2. They put it on the side here.
I
That's on the
remember
side there.
this model.
This is the one that we owned. We owned the second one, which is a little bit better. This also has a Sega Genesis 1 on it, but you could take this little chunk off the side here and you could put a Sega Genesis 2 on it, shorter.
Whoa.
Only the Genesis 1 and 2 had the port on the side for the Sega CD. There was a Genesis 3 that was even smaller, and it does not work with the Sega CD.
Okay, so for those just listening, this is a much sleeker build on this thing.
Kind of, sort of.
It's
really
like a
flatter.
deck of some sort.
It's like they're next to
yeah.
one another. Yeah, it looks like a vinyl deck.
This is the one we had was good for that.
Yeah.
You've noticed the first one had a CD tray, whereas this one, it pops open, which was very helpful for when my games were scratched because I rented them from Blockbuster, and I need to pop this open a bunch of times to get the disc to reread again.
Yeah.
But it goes further. There were more iterations of the Sega CD. The next one, Venny's childhood Sega CD, probably one of the coolest Sega CDs, is the Genesis CDX. This
Oh,
bad
man, that
boy
looks
is the
cool.
size of a portable CD player.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Has a Genesis port and pops open.
What the
disc.
fuck?
Here.
Dude,
I have never
that is
seen this
really
thing. This is
cool.
amazing.
You've never
Has the
seen it
ports on the
before?
front.
No.
Has
Really?
your it has the power in the back, but it has spot for batteries back here as well too, because it's a portable Discman. This is what Venny used as his childhood CD player, and the video output on the side here.
This is crazy because I want to like run down on the first one was
Right.
just this towering
Horrifying
monstrosity,
monster,
like
Look how small
Frankenstein
this one
monster,
got.
like
Yeah,
just a combination of consoles, and then
Yeah.
the next one also kind of looked like a combo
But
of
better.
consoles, but
These
better.
all made by
This
Sega
is just one
as they got
sweet little
smaller,
thing.
right? It gets better. I'm not done with Sega
Still
CD
have mine too.
hardware
Yeah.
versions they've done.
Yeah.
So then Sega went, well, wait a minute, we can license these out to other companies and they can do stuff. So Victor made
This
the Wonder
gets
Mega.
really wild, guys.
does, it gets
Hang
weird.
on.
Victor made the Wonder Mega in Japan only, but then they partnered with JVC in the States to make the Wonder Mega 2, aka the JVC XI,
What is that?
which is
This looks like
it's the Genesis port over here and has the CD drive here. This one is actually a little more powerful than the other Sega CDs are. It has a little bit faster loading times, a little
So
bit
they
better for the
partnered
games.
with JVC to make this?
JVC made this console, kind of like if you ever heard about the Panasonic Cube, which is the GameCube that can play DVDs. We'll get in that to our GameCube episode later.
Whoa, no, I
Um,
don't know what that is.
Yeah, oh
Fuck.
man.
I love this kind of shit. But I own this one, and this is my favorite because it's the most powerful, has shorter loading times.
I
so
didn't know they
loading
could
times.
have the license to do so.
Would you like to talk about the 6th version of the Sega CD? I don't own one of these.
The
They're too expensive.
Sega CD.
The-
Right.
Pioneer Laser Active, which was a CD and I think Laserdisc player made by Pioneer, the audio company. But it had a Mega LD add-on attachment, which would let you play Sega CD games on that. Is 6 enough Sega CDs, you think? Well, too bad, because there's a 7th
I had
one.
no idea
Yeah,
there
me
were
neither.
any more than two.
Right.
There's
I
7.
thought there was like one remake.
And the holy grail of the Sega CD, which I've never owned, is the Iowa CSD GM1, which,
That
remember those
one cracks me
Okay.
up.
boom boxes, the little boom boxes? Mac,
Hold
I'll
on.
help you find a picture you can pop up here.
Say it
little
one more
boom
time,
bo-
slowly.
The Iowa, the sound company,
Uh-huh.
AIWA CSD GM1. It's like the size of a boombox. It's blue, and it had a Genesis port on it. It had a CD player in the front, but that
What
CD
in
player
the
was
living
capable
fuck? Oh
of
my
playing
god!
Sega CD games and had controller ports on it. Came with a special, but they sell for like over $2,000. I don't own one. Sorry.
Wow, it is literally a boombox.
That was a Japan only release, but there were 7, count them 7, from 1993 to 96. There were 92 to 96. There were 7 iterations of the Sega CD.
I wish this thing had a
That's
better name, the CSDGM one.
It was a
Yeah.
Japanese thing.
Yeah.
so.
Raph, are you looking at this thing?
Wow. Holy hell. That's literally a boombox.
It is literally, it's just a boombox, yeah.
What a
That's
genius
really cool.
idea!
wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And then it's also your Sega fucking CD. Wow.
Well, look at the
What?
one that Venny had. I mean, come on. It's like
That
the size
one's
of my
slick
hand.
as fuck. That one whoops
I think
ass.
super
But this
cool.
one is hilarious.
So,
and wow.
The Sega
That
CD
one's
holds
the
a
greatest.
special place in my heart, me and Venny both, because we grew up having them. We were lucky enough to have them. Not everybody had the Sega CDs as well, too.
Were they
I-
particularly expensive?
The games have gotten a little more pricey. I will
No, back
caveat.
then. When you were saying not everyone had them, you know?
No, the consoles were, well, I mean, for
The
a video game
CDX, I
add-on, it
think,
was like
was
$300
$3.99
Yeah,
Well, for the
that one maybe.
CDX, I think
Right.
was $399 if
The
I'm not
add-ons were
mistaken.
around like $250, $300. So for an add-on to a console that wasn't really a console,
That's
it was
true.
kind of
Trying to get
pricey
your
back then
parents
too.
to get add-ons for your console.
The
Yeah,
That's pretty hard.
collectability
no way.
of them has gone crazy town, and I'll show you a picture here, Mac. But this was years ago when I owned. This was a complete Sega CD collection. I actually owned at one time a complete Sega CD collection. There's only about
this image is
330, 340 titles in the U.S. Library, including a couple of special spin-off ones too. When on a retro note for retro here at Retro Game Treasure, when we first started, we carried Sega CD and Dreamcast, which have since priced themselves out of our boxes because they've gone up in price so much. Even the most common title has gone up to like 30, 40, 50, but they more than doubled in the last 5 years.
Wow.
But some little bit of breaking news. It might be a little premature yet, but hopefully before the end of the year, we're going to be adding a new premium level where you can upgrade your monthly subscription and you can select one of those consoles, and one of your games every month can be from one of the premium consoles like the Sega CD or the Dreamcast, which is also going to let us bring in maybe some other consoles we haven't been able to
Very
carry
nice.
in the past. So
I just want to
that's
say I pulled up this the CSD GM1 and on eBay.
You're still
this thing
overwhelmed.
no, well, yeah. First of all,
He
like
means on eBay.
I'm blown away that it looks like almost like a GameCube. It kind of reminds me a lot of like the color scheme and kind of the shape of it. But this thing is almost $3,000 on eBay.
it goes for a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
that's
tremendous.
insane.
It was Japan only, and I don't think they made a very large number of them.
Almost 400. This one here. I'm sorry, 4,000. That's crazy. Wow.
So the Sega CD library had a lot of FMV games, which you'll hear us talk about a lot of them today. It did two things really well and better than anybody else at that time, especially full motion video. FMV, which is all the ones with all the it was shot on a camera and then digitized, and then CD quality soundtracks, which no one else had done at the time. So you'll see some of these games where you might have played it on 4 other consoles, but the CD quality sound on this version makes it gangbusters better than the others. Let's dive in.
All right, yeah. With no further ado,
yeah, I'd love to hear
let
some
us
of these,
begin the Sega CD console carousel. This is the Sega CD boot up music. Quite a bop.
Does it play every time you start up your Sega CD?
I would leave the disc tray open for an extra minute so I could hear it every time.
Dun, 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 dun. Ooh.
Wow, that sounds really good.
Yeah. All right. Who would like to go first? Which
Benny.
of you two gents?
Carousel. I will go first gladly.
All right, very good.
I'm happy that we're on this one. Sega CD was a time where, these advancements in tech and everything going to disc based, and Sega CD was pretty much first in line, especially in the US. We had 3DO and Sega CD first, and then PlayStation came after. So it was really something, because Sega was this well-known, well-loved household name, and then you had like Panasonic and Sanyo and Sony making these 3DOs. Did Sony make a 3DO? I forgot. I think they did.
No, that was Panasonic.
That's just Panasonic and Sanyo. Okay. And the Sega CD was a lower price point, so and that little CDX was really sexy back then. It was hard to say no to.
Even now, yeah.
Even now. So, without further ado, let's jump into that console carousel goodness. Buck thinks he has my top 5 nailed down in
really
order.
close.
He probably does, to be honest with you. He knows, but Buck knows my tastes. So let's jump right in. Starting at number 5, we got Ground Zero, Texas. The second Sega CD game I ever played in my life, and I remember in one of our very first episodes of the podcast, we talked about Ground Zero Texas because we were talking about games that dealt with time. And Ground Zero Texas, as well as a couple other games, I know, but probably Buck's all-time favorite. You've got these live scenes going on throughout the world of the game. This little Texas town that sits at Ground Zero. you basically switch cameras between these different locales. And it's this story about like aliens who have infiltrated this small Texas town, and some have taken on the form of the townspeople. And what's really cool is you have all these different personalities and all these different characters, and it randomly decides throughout the game based on and based on what has happened and what you missed and what you did. In this playthrough, this townsperson could be an alien, and if the scene lasts 5 seconds longer, she actually pulls a gun on you. Or maybe she's not an alien this time, and it just fades out, and okay, she's good this time, let's move on.
And they could randomize the scenes like that every time you play.
They randomized the scenes like that, but it happened in real time. So you had to find enough of these aliens to get to part 2 of the game, where the invasion officially starts, and it becomes like a FMV shooter at that point. Still from the angles of whichever camera that you're on, but very, very neat stuff.
That's
really,
mind
really
blowing.
fun.
Like, how do you pull that off?
What part?
Like
Yeah,
having
yeah.
like all these different FMVs that I mean, I guess you shoot the same scene several times and like in different ways.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That takes
Digital
so much
Pictures
work to
did this
make.
one too, and they became like the masters of like making these cutaway FMV
Digital
games.
Pictures, exactly. They were the ones that were best known for those full blown, like the entire game as FMV kind of
Awesome.
games.
I
They
was
started
there
out
for
with
it, man.
yeah, I was all about it. They started out with Sewer Shark, which was a release game for the Sega CD,
Dog
and then
meat.
Dog Meat, Ground Zero Texas, and then they came out with this trilogy, which I'll get in on later because that is really something. Moving on to number 2, another Digital
Four.
Pictures. Oh, excuse me. Yes, sorry. 2 on my list. Number 4, top 4.
Right.
That was 5. My number 4, but believe it or not, another Digital Pictures classic,
I believe it.
Slam City, for the
Starring
Sega
Scottie
CD.
Pippen.
Starring
Whoa.
Scottie Pippen of the Chicago Bulls.
Whoa, is it a basketball game?
It is.
It is a basketball game.
What?
So check it out.
But an FMV basketball game.
Oh shit! This
Open
looks
that,
awesome.
open that up, Buck, because this game comes with
All of my Sega CD
5
games are in
discs.
protective slim.
Oh,
yeah, that's
it
right.
comes with, I believe, 5 discs. Guys, each disc was one of the bosses. So you had these 4 characters
Whoa.
who you had to earn respect by beating them on the court, and then the 5th character is you could unlock
There's
Scottie
doubles in here.
Pippen. Each of those discs is just one character that you play against.
That's awesome.
That's a
And
Digital
there's the
Pictures
temporary
temporary
tattoo.
tattoo.
Yeah,
It's not complete copy if it doesn't have the Digital Pictures temporary tattoo.
I have like 10 of those tattoos still. So I want to tell you a little something about Slam City.
This looks crazy.
When you got to this era of FMV game, Digital Pictures did this cool thing where the entire game is FMV. Like there's no like
Right.
and what
It's
happened
not like
was
Dracula, where we watched on last week's stream
What it-
night. Where it's,
what it would do is it would give you these little indicators or these little like signals like on different sides of the screen or whatever, and that would signal you like, okay, you got to
Oh.
break left, you got to
kind of like
break
Dragon's
right.
Lair would.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And once you got really good, you could turn the indicators off, and you would just know, okay, he's faking left, I'm gonna go right, or something like that.
What?
And yeah, it was pretty rad. And the currency, the points, you didn't have points, you had
Spaceballs.
respect. And once you got over a
fucking
certain
awesome.
amount of respect, you could unlock playing against the next boss, and it would just go and go and go. You had Fingers. Fingers was like the Glass Joe of the game. He was like the first one you fought against.
Okay.
And then I know the big burly white dude. His name was Mad Dog, and there was this girl too who was real. She was hard. And then if you got all the way to the top of the ladder and you had like 1,000,000 respect, Scottie Pippen would challenge you, and you would go put one of the discs in, and you could play against
What?
Scottie Pippen. And they
Cool.
filmed
It's
this
got his
all.
own disc.
Guys, there is in TV land and internet land, and I still have my copy somewhere, and I'm pretty sure Buck has his copy in his game room. There's this VHS tape that Digital Pictures made, and you could just send off for one. They would just send you one for free. You just had to pay for shipping. And it was a VHS tape that gave you all the behind the scenes of Corpse Killer, Slam City, and Supreme Warrior. And you got to see
Cool.
how they made all these games and how they went underneath and got the shots. And when they're doing this slam dunk, there's like a pad underneath, and you got to see how the studio was decked out. Oh my god.
Cool.
Crazy.
Rad
I
as hell,
love
man.
this.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
if you had the 32X Sega CD, you actually got a drastic improvement in graphics quality
I own that
with
copy too.
with these three games:
Nice.
Slam City, Supreme Warrior, Corpse Killer.
Yep.
I had
So let's
no
just
idea
move.
this kind of game existed like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
This whole like
Now you understand why
yeah.
we like FMV games so much when they come out, like on Steam and other new.
Right, yeah,
It's just
yeah,
a
yeah.
nostalgia. A lot of disclaimer: a lot of these games suck,
That's very
It's
good.
true.
but it's a
It's true.
nostalgia factor that you cannot recapture.
Sewer Shark, which was their first title, was bad. It was down
But
I
bad.
remember that one.
The idea of it, I played it yesterday. That's like this is
I-
still fun. It sucks, but it's still cool.
Really something. I mean, totally unique. You're not going to find anything like this anymore. And if,
Well, probably
if,
never again.
if you do, I'll buy it on Steam day one. Moving on to my number 3, right along, and I promise this will be the last Digital Pictures FMV game I'm going to talk about. Supreme Warrior.
I
Supreme
had your order
Warrior.
way off, by the way. I was wrong.
Okay, well that's fine. I was a massive, and still am a massive kung fu movie buff. That's
Yeah.
that's my thing. You ask me what my favorite kind of movie is? Kung fu films, especially like mid, like 90s and 2000s, like mid-range kung fu films where like all the flying and CG was just starting to be a thing, but it wasn't like like the whole deal yet. Like
Mhm.
Flying
Wire fu
Dragon,
stuff.
like
Crouching
Crouching Tiger era.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like
I
Crouching
agree.
Tiger, Hidden Dragon era,
It's the same.
Great movie.
Ip Man 1 era, Hero era with Jet
Another
Li.
really good movie.
Mhm, mhm.
Supreme Warrior was filmed at the same studio, the Shaw Brothers studio, where they made all these old kung fu films. If you go, you get a tape of an old film, with these guys, and they did not dub anything at the time. It was all just, language you couldn't understand. These Chinese guys doing these classic kung fu films. It was made at the same studio that they did Supreme Warrior.
That's awesome.
And you had to fight against there was the final boss, and he had like his minions, or there was like a head general of like a general of air, fire, and water, and they each had their own 2 lackeys that you had to fight. So each part of the game had its own discs. Like if you wanted to fight the fire general, you had to put in the fire general disc, and you would fight his 2 lackeys and then get to him. And
This looks
you would
awesome.
get these
Yeah,
little
it's cool.
indicators on different parts of the screen, and it would tell you, okay, they're open to a punch on the right, or they're open to a front kick right now, or they're open up to a roundhouse on the left. You had to visually either see the little indicators, or if you turn that off, you had to be so good at the game you could just understand by looking at the combatant. Oh, he's open on the left and he's close, that means I can punch left, or like palm heel in the middle.
Yeah.
Benny had me
It's-
pop this in one time when he was over. He's like, "Watch this, I can beat it." And it's like I hardly played this
I
as a
can
kid.
beat
We
it.
didn't own this game, and I'm watching it. And it's the same thing, like all these little cues that the only way you learn them is by playing the game like 100 times.
Right.
And he's like beating the crap. Oh, you get this, and then you get the. If you do this, you get the
Destroying
special move, and it was
the
like,
game.
holy shit, dude. That's really
It's cool that you get
impressive.
to watch a cool kung fu, like
And-
a kind of a like
Yeah.
chopsaki film in between
Mhm.
playing
Yeah.
the game.
I would have
Tell him-
completely beat the game right in front of him, but Buck had the 32X on top of
The
the
enhanced version, yeah.
the enhanced
It caught on
XI.
fire.
It was on the XI.
No,
Yeah, it caught
we,
on fire, right?
we
Yeah,
weren't
I
able
remember.
to. It was at a point in the game where you had to open the console and put that next disc in.
Okay.
We couldn't
If
get it
you
open.
use the 32X with this Sega CD in particular, the
Uh-huh.
XI, if it's a game that has more than one disc, the 32X is sitting here. You can't physically open the disc drive.
There's
The
not a-
32X blocks
32X
the
overlaps it.
blocks the disc.
That's
drive.
hilarious.
So I beat the fire general and the earth general, and we went on to try to do
So sick.
wind and then the final boss, and we couldn't get the door open.
Tell them the story about
so
the cover of this game.
The cover of Supreme Warrior depicts a scene when you're fighting the fire general. And what they did was the last scene after you beat the fire general, there's this scene where the whole temple behind him is just on fire, like just blazing fire.
Mm.
And when they were filming that scene, you just see him like, and then it fades to black. Little did they know, that fire was burning out of control.
Yeah.
And
The wind
they-
kicked up.
the wind kicked up really, really hard, and that fire was burning out of control, threatening
Keep
to
rolling,
burn down
keep
the
rolling,
entire
keep
set.
rolling.
Keep rolling, keep rolling, keep rolling. So they took a still from that scene where the whole place
What?
almost burned down, and they used it for the cover.
That's
Cool.
wild.
I think
It's
you've talked about
wild.
that before because I feel like I've heard that, and there's no way I would know that without hearing it from you.
No, you
probably.
definitely mentioned that
Yeah,
at some
at
point
some
before.
point.
Yeah, but that's
Very specifically.
That's dope.
Yeah.
fucking gnarly right there.
Very
yeah,
nice.
it's a great story.
Let's
So if
finish
it's
mine
not,
up, and then
if
we'll
I
get
to
over
say
to
if
Bucks.
it's not full motion video games, what else is there for the
What
Sega
else
Genesis
is
there?
or for the
Oh.
Sega CD?
Numero
But
dos.
Yeah, don't count it out, because one of the biggest enhancements with Sega CD was it was using a CD, so the audio quality on all of these games, Buck already mentioned it, was
Wow.
just through the roof.
Good point.
Anybody ever play a little game called Shining Force? Shining Force 1, 2, and 3 on the Sega Genesis?
Oh,
There is a Shining Force CD, and it is my number 2 Sega
Really?
CD game. Guys, this is the best version of Shining Force you could possibly get. It's also the longest, and the music is orchestral quality.
Yo.
You go and you just listen to the basic like overworld battle sound, like
Yeah.
soundtrack,
And you're like,
the
holy shit.
the
Oh, this
theme
sounds
for Shining
incredible.
Force CD. It sounds, I mean, it sounds like something you would hear today in a it sounds like something you would hear in Visions of Mana that just came out 3 weeks ago.
Right. It reminds me of Symphony of the Night, being blown away by the sound of that or something.
And the
It's
Yeah.
like that.
voiceover, yeah, the
It's-
voiceover work is good too.
Yo.
Yeah, fantastic
Yeah, it sounds
game.
fucking awesome.
The
Very
story was
good.
incredible. I had played Shining Force 2 on the Genesis, rented it so many times in a row that I beat it. I never actually owned it. And then when I saw Shining Force CD was a thing, that was next on my list. And holy smokes, not only is it good, it's long. It is a long game because you play
Wow.
as the hero in the first phase of the
Mhm.
game, and it's a fully fleshed out, RPG. You could have
Mhm.
ended it right there. And then there's like a part 2 where the hero is one of the NPCs, and now he's talking for the first time, and you're I can't say
What?
enough good things about this game.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a tactics game. Kind of reminds
what it
me
looks
of
like.
yeah, it's like
Yes.
it's like oh my
It's almost
gosh,
like a
Final
Planet
Fire
Fantasy
Emblem.
Tactics, Fire
Yeah.
Emblem.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
Right.
Fire
Into the
Emblem reminds me a
seed.
lot of the.
So I'm thinking of
Right.
other CD-based tactics games, and I guess you got what's Front Mission ends up coming out for the PlayStation 1. This game just looks awesome. When you
Yeah.
go
It's
into the
very
actual
good.
battle and it pulls the camera behind whoever is attacking, there's those big sprites. Damn,
Mhm.
I didn't know this existed.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's
But
really
Benny, what
wonderful.
could be better than Shining Force CD on the Sega CD?
Yeah, I know. What could be better? Once upon a time, in the early Sega CD era, it was thank you. It was also an early era for something called anime in the US. And there was this game that I caught a glimpse of on the Sega CD
I think I
called
remember.
Lunar Silver Star
That's what I
Story.
thought.
hmm
And it had this anime intro
Mm.
that was like something out of a late 80s dark fantasy anime, and I was blown away. I can hear the theme
So
song
good.
in my
Yeah.
ears right now to this
We
day.
watched it on our first stream watch along episode.
Lunar and Lunar 2 Eternal Blue. Okay, you had Final Fantasy, you had Chrono Trigger, and you had Lunar. Nobody played Lunar.
I did. I
Lunar
played Chrono
2,
Trigger later.
Yep. Lunar 2 Eternal Blue is my second favorite game of all time, all consoles.
Wow, really?
It is
It's
got
really good.
there's a rich story. The characters are wonderful. The writing is wonderful. The battle system is a little different. You're on a field and they actually kind of move around the field a little bit, but it is still very much turn-based. The music is impeccable.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, I think, with the exception of maybe Final Fantasy VI, superior to pretty much any other RPG on the market to date.
Working Designs was on fire.
Working Designs had it going. And what's really great, and what you could do on CD based consoles, as we started to see cutscenes. We started to see like full either FMV or polygonal cutscenes. Lunar had anime cutscenes.
There's almost an hour of anime cutscenes in this
the mid 90s, you guys.
Yeah.
Lunar Eternal Blue had pretty much an hour of anime cutscenes.
High
Full- I mean,
fantasy anime.
high
cutscenes.
This must have been
fantasy
so
anime cutscenes.
This was like
mind-blowing.
Lodos War level shit. I mean, it was
Brother, I gotta tell you,
The
There's a
little chibi
reason.
sprites in combat are so
I love it.
cute.
Yeah.
They look so good.
Mhm.
And
They look
move
so good.
cute, man.
And I
this
gotta
is-
say, Lunar, they re-released Lunar twice. They re-released it on the PS1. You
PS1,
had
yeah.
Silver Star Story Complete and Lunar Eternal Blue Perfect or Eternal Blue Complete. I forget what it was
the name of
called.
that one. Mhm.
I own both of them. There was also, I believe, a PSP version of the first Lunar game, if I'm not mistaken. Buck, did they put it out on PSP as well?
They made a
Ooh.
GBA version called Dragon Song, I think.
Might have been that.
The Game
Might
Boy
have been that.
Advance.
But I will tell you the classics. Um, one is good on both. One is good on Sega CD. I think one is a little better on PS1 because they took what made two so good and like all the insane like anime cutscenes and the vibrancy of two, and they brought that to the remake of one. I thought the retelling of one was a little superior to the Sega CD one. Two, on the other hand, I did not love the remake of two.
Mm.
Two, I think
Huh.
I think Sega CD has the better version. They kind of
So good.
they dumbed some of the animations and sprites down a little bit. It wasn't as dynamic. It didn't feel as crisp, and it just didn't have the same impact
You
as
weren't
the
9
original.
years old.
No. You put no, dead serious. You put the combat of original 2 next to the PS1 version of 2, and you'll agree with me. The combat in the original looks cooler, crisper, juicier. For a lot of reasons.
I rented this first one from Blockbuster like 4 or 5 times before I bought it. And I remember, in Blockbuster with RPGs, it was a thing, right? You rent the game and if I don't rent it again right away, someone overwrote my save file, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So little kid me has rented Lunar a couple times. I'm like, I can't believe no one's overwritten my save file. And then I learned about the internal RAM of the CD-ROM.
CDs don't save games, you dork. It's the system.
It was saved to my
It was the
Sega
system.
CD.
Because when you rented a cartridge game, if you
I
returned it,
didn't know
somebody-
it didn't.
some-
My brain went,
Oh,
does it
you
write
thought
to
you
the
were just
disc? I don't really
getting
know how it does that.
I didn't
thought it
make
was
the
just getting
connection
lucky.
until then either. I didn't make that connection either.
I
But
didn't even
back
make the connection right now.
You can
until
actually
mentioned
I
it.
have a boxed one. You can actually buy a Sega Genesis cartridge shaped backup RAM for the Sega CD, and it's basically
Yes.
a big memory card.
I had that.
Ah,
I had
that's
that.
an
That's why
adorable
you need
story.
memory cards for.
So my
for-
number
yeah.
one game, my
Right.
number 2 game of all time, Lunar 2 Eternal Blue, at the
Yeah.
top of my Sega CD carousel.
Yeah.
Nice.
Couldn't be more happy
Both of
to
them.
get to talk about it. No one ever, it's so underappreciated and so underknown. And I think people would be doing themselves a big favor, especially if you've got a PS1 and you get that Retro Game Treasure subscription and you
not Lunar. Sorry,
oh,
kids.
not Lunar. Oh
Too
boy.
expensive.
I think Lunar 1 goes for something like $250, $350.
Holy
Oh
smokes.
wow.
We are great for growing your collection on a budget. We are not great for hunting the really rare, expensive titles.
There
Right.
we go.
That's fair.
Buck.
That's fair.
I want to
Yeah,
hear
that's-
and I want to hear about your list.
I'm
Oh,
very curious to hear
snap.
these,
Well,
yeah.
I've got a good one too. We always like to collaborate a bit on these, so we
Yeah.
give you a nice mixture of them.
He gave me Ground Zero Texas. That could have gone either way.
That one's right up there for me too. I probably played that one as much as I played my number 1 on my list, which you guys have probably already guessed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna preface this with we both give Sonic CD honorable mention. It's a great game.
Big honorable
Soundtrack is
mention.
great. It sold like
Ah.
almost 2 million copies. I think 1.5 million copies on a console that barely sold 2 million consoles. It's a great game. The soundtrack is amazing, but it didn't quite hit the nostalgia as much for me as some of these do. So coming in at number 5 with a arcade, better than arcade, not arcade perfect, better than arcade game and soundtrack. I want you guys to listen to the first level music for Final Fight CD.
Ah,
Yes.
yes.
Amazing choice.
This game. We've all played Final Fight, right? Like everybody out there.
Like everybody.
I mean, everybody's.
I'm about to watch the best cop movie you've ever seen.
Yeah.
the other night.
So it sounds like
It's really fucking funny.
I'm a day
It's the
away
same-
from retirement.
it's the same music from Final Fight, but they got dudes in a studio with an electric guitar.
We gotta catch the Black Viper.
Yeah.
He's slinging crack all
Guys,
over
You
the
gotta catch damn.
You get yourself one of those synthwave backgrounds on your PC and you play this track and you are immersed.
This reminds me of the saxophone tune that the sexy guy is
Yes.
playing in Lost Boys
From Lost
in the
Boys.
beginning or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. This so
Fucking
the
rocks.
thing with Final Fight was at home we only got it on the Super Nintendo originally, and there were ROM. Yes, please keep playing that in the background. I love it. There were limitations on the hardware, so we didn't get Guy in the Super Nintendo version. They later on made Final Fight Guy, which was like a Blockbuster exclusive, and it's stupid expensive. It's like a $300 game now, and it just has Hagar and Guy because they still have the same limitations. It doesn't have Cody in it.
That's fucking hilarious.
It was so weird. But more than that, this is one of the best co-op beat 'em ups of the arcade at the time, right? Super Nintendo version is one player.
Yeah.
You can't even play with your friend.
Yep.
Even though the two characters are there. This version has this banging soundtrack, all three characters, simultaneous two-player co-op, and by the way, the only voice-acted intro to any Final Fight. Not even the arcade version has a voice-acted intro with Hagar picking up the phone for Damned and learning that Jessica's been kidnapped.
That is clearly the superior version of Final Fight.
I mean,
If I were a judge, I would bang the gavel right now and say all those things.
But yeah, so if you've never played this version of it, oh man, and I don't know if they've ever released this version anywhere else. It's so good.
I don't think they have.
Good fade out.
I digress.
Great stuff, buddy.
That was
Great
some
pick.
sexy 80s fucking
Right?
butt rock shit. I like that. It sounded like a club, like
Did you just say
a
butt rock?
yeah. Like it'd be like in a movie where like the
the guy
villain,
playing the saxophone in Lost Boys.
yeah, you know what I mean? It's like just like trying to be so sexy
Butt
with
rock.
that rock and roll
Yeah.
guitar solo.
All right, number 4. I've only done my first one. Holy smokes! If you guys have been watching our watch-alongs, don't forget to catch those on Thursday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We talk about and react to old video game intros, openings, endings. We did a complete Tekken 2 ending like marathon.
Like
and part of
everyone's
this one.
ending, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And we've been doing the Lost Cutting Room Floor FMV endings to Twisted Metal 1 that didn't make it into the game. We've been watching one every week. We watched we watched Viper.
Those are
That's
cool.
last
fucking
week.
awesome.
That was
That's
pretty
really
fun.
funny.
So I did this one on our watch along last week. I did the intro to this one, and that is Road Avenger for the Sega
This
CD.
game's fucking
yeah.
bonkers.
No, this
yeah,
is
One of
cool as
the
hell. I remember
renovation
this one.
games. This is the one in the car with the cool animation on that. It's like a Dragon's Lair or any of those others where it's animated and you pick a direction and it was right and you continue, or it's wrong and it shows like an explosion or a
Right.
special crash, depending on what you did. I just remember playing the crap out of this, and I mean that theme song first of all was so good.
yeah.
But-
That opening intro was amazing. It was
Animation's
like
so good.
Bubblegum Crisis or something.
Yeah, this was an arcade game called Road Blaster in Japan, and then in the United States arcade called Road Prosecutor. and there's a wolf. I don't know. They changed the names. I don't
Road
know. It's weird.
Prosecutor?
Prosecutor. I don't know.
And then in
Uh,
Europe
Wolf-
it was called Ass Blaster.
Wolf Team did some of the best animated ones
it's
for the
Arse
console,
Blaster.
also like this Time Gal, some of the other ones you've seen me do before.
Oh yeah, Time Gal.
Yeah, which are all, but I love all of these kind of. I mean, they were like the birth of like quick time events, right? The whole game is
Yeah.
just a giant. If you've ever seen Wirehead, which is FMV, but it's just a giant series of quick time events.
Mhm.
The funniest thing about the Sega CD is because I had a complete collection at one time. I have played I can say I have played every single Sega CD game, even if it was only for 20 minutes. I played every single one.
Especially if it was only for 20
It's
minutes.
crazy town, yeah. But I mean, they're just so good. And I'll mention too, I've mentioned Dragon's Lair a couple times to compare to this. But Buck, why wouldn't you bring up Dragon's Lair for the Sega CD? The Sega CD version of Dragon's Lair is the worst version of Dragon's Lair like in
Really?
existence.
Really?
It doesn't
looks
have
awful.
any of the on-screen cues, even if you wanted to like learn the game. It is on the hardest setting that the arcade had. The input windows are wrong and off, and
Whoa,
it's just
really?
it's a very
Wow.
frustrating experience.
I didn't know that.
So that's why I didn't, even though I love Don Bluth, love Dragon's Lair.
Yeah.
Number 3, we're okay. This is a hybrid. And I'm looking at the box now, and I just realized that it works with the Sega Genesis mouse. Believe it or not, I've forgotten that.
Okay.
I think I linked the intro for you guys on this one. Maybe I forgot to. I wanted Raph to see the intro.
Oh.
Here it is, because this game was a first person. I'd call it like a puzzle game. I was really into
yes.
Seventh Guest and some of those kind of games at the time. What's wrong with
Oh yeah.
but it's like a first person like exploration kind of sort of puzzle game. But if you watch this intro, and I want Mac to
I
pop
do
it up
remember
on the
that
stream
blue
there too.
butterfly.
You walk into this mansion and you go, hey, wait a minute,
Oh.
that's a mansion from Resident Evil. This game came out 4 years before Resident Evil.
It really does look just
Oh,
like
this
the
looks just
what's
like
the
it,
word?
yeah.
Like the landing room, like the
Yeah, like the foyer or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh
And-
man, yeah.
and
There
so-
it is. That
Yep.
staircase.
I-
Yep.
when it was almost like when the first Resident Evil came out, there was this wave of familiarity that flew over. Like, oh my god, I played this game for hours, and it was the exact same room. And by the way, this game is like so terrifying and tense. Like as a child, I mean,
It's like a seventh
Yeah.
guest, like a adventure
There was a
game,
lot.
pretty much, right? Or is
It
it?
is- so this is funny. I beat this game yesterday again. Like I haven't played it in 20 years, and I
Yeah,
played
yeah.
it and I beat it yesterday. And I actually had to use a game fax for like the last 20 minutes of the game because it was so weird.
Uh-huh.
But it's mostly like explore a room, look at an item again. Oh, there's a key hidden behind it. Where's the key go? Well, there's only like 4 locked doors, so I'm gonna go try those locked doors. Oh, it works on this one. So it's really like it's more like Myst, where it's like constant progression through parts of the game, and then it gets interrupted by little cutscenes with the butterflies, which are all voice acted.
Ooh.
But the crazy thing on this one is it's all 3D. It's all rendered.
I'm watching
3D.
this. It's wild.
This
looking.
whole game
Yeah.
is so very Myst, like the same kind of thing.
Yeah, they
Within
could
or
have just
something
full
like that,
motion
yeah.
videoed this. No.
They could have maybe. The funny thing was you watch that intro scene again and you go like, oh, okay, so that's running at like 6 frames per second.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
The,
The
are there any
games-
enemies in the game that like attack you, or no? You just
There is one that will attack you, but it just kills you. There's no fighting back in this game. There's really just it gets to a point where you can make wrong decisions and die, but there's only a couple wrong decisions you can make and die. You actually pick up a diary in this game, and you could save at like any point. So that was really cool. You could trial and error your way through it. But after beating it again yesterday, I realized like this whole game only has like 10 rooms, 11 rooms. Like it's not a very
long
big game or long game, but yes, but this one has such a nostalgic factor. Like to me, I just absolutely loved it. But if you ever check it
Nice.
out, it's a super cool one. I think it was Vic Takai that made this, who was making all kinds of crazy games at the time, but super neat. And it obviously influenced Resident Evil and some other games, right?
I certainly
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that blue
100%.
butterfly on the cover.
Number 2. I'm just gonna say I feel really bad because I'm gonna show off this game and I'm gonna talk about how great it is, and you can't play it
Oh,
Why?
well, that's tragic.
because it's
sealed.
Hideo Kojima's Snatcher for the Sega CD.
Nice.
The worst thing about the Sega
Oh,
CD is there's
baby.
no good ways to play some of these games
It's
like
It's like
anywhere.
deception, baby.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like deception, and I'm gonna come clean. If my wife watches this, I'm sorry. I don't know if she remembers or not, but this is the single most expensive game in my collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
think you've
know, this
shown
one's
this
very
before for
pricey.
something.
I have
remember.
talked about it before. Snatcher is, I think, well over $1,000 now. It was not that expensive when I bought it,
Right.
but
yeah,
it
yeah,
is the single most expensive game in my collection. This was a Neo Japan cyberpunk Blade Runner-y love letter from Hideo Kojima, the man who made all the Metal Gear games and Death Stranding,
I
but
wanna
back
play
in
this
the
game
early
so
90s.
bad.
One of the differences about this game in particular, it only really came out on the TurboGrafx CD and for the Sega CD, but he made this game with these consoles in mind, with the limitations and so if you look in some of the animation and the sprites and everything else, there's none of that down-resed anything else on this. He kept it all in mind when they were doing this game. This game's fully voice acted, and the voice acting is pretty darn good. And it's
Ah.
basically it's kind of sort of the just the script to Blade Runner. Like there are these Reploid kind of things called
Replicants.
Snatchers,
Yeah.
and they take the place of humans in society, kind of like the Reploids do in Blade Runner. There are these guys called Junkers that are basically the Blade Runners, and you kind of just play as Harrison Ford, but you have amnesia. And you go around investigating, trying to catch up with these things that are replacing people. And there are little scenes when you face off with them where if you are on a regular console, you use the cursor to shoot a la like Lethal Enforcers. But if you have the Justifier, the gun for the Sega CD, you can shoot at your screen.
That fucking kicks ass.
That's dope,
I did
yeah.
not know that.
Yeah, which is super duper cool.
I want to
wanna
play this game so bad.
It's
James-
so
well, you
badly,
can't.
like,
so
it's- yeah.
you can
Yeah,
come over and play my
sorry.
copy in
Is
one of
there-
my
Kiddo.
4 Sega CD consoles.
Is there a
It's-
character in the game called
Named
Metal,
Metal
Gear?
Gear? I just saw that.
No,
yeah.
but there is a Metal Gear in it. There isn't just a character named Metal Gear. You know the little one, the little Metal Gear from Metal
Yeah.
Gear like 1?
Yeah.
He is actually that Metal Gear is actually in it as like your information machine that helps you find things.
Yeah,
Awesome.
you're the little
Gather
dude that
inf-
like helps you. I remember seeing something about this game. The little guy that helps you. His
It's
name
not
is
just a
Metal
guy
Gear,
named
yeah,
Metal
yeah.
Gear. It is a little Metal
Little
Gear.
tiny Metal Gear.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Which later on in Sons of the Patriots, when he made the little thing for Otacon to use, he was just bringing back little Metal
Yeah,
Gear.
It was like a mini version of Metal Gear Rex, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But down to their guns and the hover cars and everything
Yeah.
else, this is
This
just a
game looks
giant love
fucking
letter.
Sick.
There's another game he made later on. I own an import copy on the PS1 because it only came out on the PS1 and the Saturn. It's called Police Knots.
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
And
of
it's
yeah.
like I think it's like a spiritual successor. I'll be honest, I own it and I've never played it. But it's another Hideo Kojima game, and it's
Yeah.
supposed to be equally as awesome. But God, I love Snatcher so much.
Oh wow, Police Knots. Damn. This also
Mhm.
looks
A
tight as
good
hell.
one. Not going to surprise anyone here. My number 1 is the glorious Night
You'll
Trap.
get caught
Yeah.
in the night trap.
Please tell me that was like a jingle for the commercial or something.
It was actually in the game during the
Was it
scene when all the
really?
girls are dancing around the couch, and you're supposed to be paying attention to the augurs. sneaking
Wow,
around the
they
house.
danced to that. That is
So
They did
obviously,
that song.
you of course you're going to watch the girls dance
Yeah.
around,
And then you get in trouble.
and then you get in trouble
Uh-oh.
because you missed a kill.
You got
Yeah, because
distracted.
that's how that game works.
Because you're a sick perv.
And you think, oh my gosh, it's been so long, I have to play it all over again. You look down at the timer, you've been playing for 10 and a half minutes, and you're like, oh,
That's fine.
that's not that long. I played this game yesterday, the original Sega CD version, not one of the re-releases you guys have seen me talk about before. I own this game on the Switch. I own it on the Game Boy Advance
Yes.
because they made it. But this was the original. This was the reason why we have the ESRB. This is the version pre-ESRB that has no rating on it, the
Right.
infamous red box.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have multiple cameras, like in Ground Zero, Texas, but you're not shooting at anything. You're setting off traps inside the house. Basically, there's a bunch of girls that have gone to do a sleepover. The family are actually vampires, and there's these guys that collect blood for vampires called augurs, and for some reason, they have shown up at the vampire's house unbeknownst to them. You are part of a team that knows about this, like a SWAT team, but it's called SCAT, bad name. And you have infiltrated the house with one of the girls. Dana Plato plays your mole like character that's been infiltrated, and you set off traps to try and catch the augurs and save all the girls. So you switch around all these different cameras, stuff goes on, but you're saying, oh Buck, it's going to be the same every time. Not necessarily. There's some of the things are set, some of them are random. The family members will change an access code to the traps randomly on you. So if you miss that scene and they say, let's change the access code to yellow, then it randomizes whatever word they say, right?
Yeah.
It's not always yellow when you watch that scene, and you have to catch that because 30 seconds later when they go to the basement, they change the code, and then your traps will no longer work.
In the night.
That's a trap.
Yes.
Trap.
I always got caught out by the outdoor area because the augurs would climb across the roof, and I would miss those ones. They would always get me.
We should make you play that on stream.
I would
stream
love
you
to
playing
watch
that
that, yeah.
somehow.
Would you like me to play the original version, the re-release
Yeah,
version, the
something on a
Sega
computer,
CDX
I'd
version,
imagine.
or the Switch version, or the version I own on Steam?
Any
That would have to
version,
be
I
the
guess.
Steam-
I
that'd
guess
have to
the
be the
easiest.
Steam
Yeah,
one.
the
That'd
Steam
be
would
the
probably be the
easiest to
easiest
stream.
one to do. Yeah.
Other than Final Fantasy IV, this is the only other game I own as many times over as that. And my original copy I had, I think I bought from Funko Land used, and it was disc only because this game is 2 discs, and I had to later on buy a box for my 2-disc no game.
Wow.
I played yesterday
Huh.
for the first time in years, and I got to the second disc on my first try, so I was pretty proud of myself for that one.
Nice.
Hell yeah. Damn.
Well,
Great
nice.
game.
At the top of your carousel, who would have guessed? Lays a game
everybody
that you
would have
own
guessed.
On, 1,000
I have an
copies.
honorable mention here that I want to show off. That's pretty cool
Oh, okay.
because
What is it?
I am
What do
still
you
a
got?
Sega CD collector, even
got?
though it's not complete anymore. There were a couple of Sega CD games that were made and that were scrapped. There were a couple that were made and then got ported onto the Saturn instead because they got dropped, like Myst. Myst was originally supposed to be on the Sega CD, got dropped, got put out on the Saturn. There are a couple that didn't quite get finished that still got released later on. And this one, by Good Deal Games, I own 2 of their games that they had. This one is Citizen X.
What is
Okay.
this?
This game was not finished, but it's
Weird.
mostly finished. And this is a Sega CD game, one of two made by them. The other one I think is called Bug Blasters or Bug Busters. It's a Ghostbuster ripoff with bugs.
Bug nutters.
This one is
nuggets.
this game where these terrorists are like gonna blow up something important, and you have 15 minutes to stop them. And you'd be like,
Okay.
so the game's 15 minutes long. That's all I get, huh? Well, you have 15 minutes. Turns out to complete the first level because each level has a different set time limit. From there, it just becomes a really bad platformer.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty bad platformer. I'm
It
looking
is.
at it now.
But it's kind of cool to own this because while this is not a complete game, this is technically an official release because these guys bought the rights from the people that didn't finish the game and then released it onto this, and you can actually play this on your Sega CD. So there's a couple games like that out there that are pretty cool for collectors to have.
And of
as
course,
well,
it's
too,
got
so.
some full motion video in it as well.
Of course, it has full motion video in it.
And I can't gather any context clues from what is happening on the gameplay.
Here's your
It's
context
explained-
clue.
yeah,
I'm
Here's
watching
the
the
part-
gameplay and I have no idea what's
bonkers,
happening.
yeah, there's-
Here's the part that's going to blow Benny's mind and upset him, and now he's going to have to borrow this.
Aw.
This is a digital pictures game, Benny.
No.
I see a crazy clown man who looks like Terrifier is here. There's a
Why is this guy running from an
man with a
alligator
no
and-
shirt on with a crazy hat.
There's a
and
lot
an
of
eye patch
playthroughs
who
of
looks
people
like Val
online
Kilmer.
playing it. That's, but I don't even know if you can get the. I remember when I found out about it, I emailed them because they didn't have them on their store anymore, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I got a couple more copies here. I'll sell them to you."
Yeah, let me. He just pulls them out from under his mattress.
He
What are
just
those
had, like,
fucking things. Yeah,
probably-
here's a Citizen
probably.
X.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But that is the beloved, ever expensive Sega CD.
Okay, very nice.
Hell
Well,
yeah.
hey, we are running a little long, so let's go ahead and take a quick break and then head into our What Else You Got, and we'll finish our episode up.
Hello, Mike Hager here.
Hee Mr. Haggard. So pleased to make your acquaintance.
All right, we're back, and we're ready to finish our episode out with our What Else You Got. We were allowed to bring to the table anything we would like, be it video game or otherwise. Mine was just gonna be doing a prank with this green screen, and I couldn't set it up in time to do a joke, and I was gonna pull the background out from under me like a rug. But I will be using it to do some streaming. I think we do those live streams on Thursday, and I think Raph and I might try to pick another day to do
Do a little streaming.
run through a little maybe like one player games or very simple 2-player like non-multiplayer on the internet games. We were thinking about doing Disco Elysium first, perhaps.
Ooh,
Oh my
Anyhow,
gosh.
Yeah,
that's a game.
yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
That is the most like Sega CD-esque modern game I can think of.
But besides that, the the only thing I have been doing, I finished watching this show called The Boyfriend on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I've talked about that on this
I think so.
before, but it's a Japanese reality show that is
I heard about this.
about like at different times, anywhere between 6 to 8 Japanese men who live with each other, and they're all gay and they're all single. And it does to the Big Brother formula essentially what British Bake Off does for, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Cooking
just
shows,
very
cooking
I love that show.
sincere and
Like, there's no
quiet.
competition
There's
there.
not,
It's-
yeah, you can't
it's-
lose. Then nobody gets
yeah.
voted off. There's no, well, so it's even less so than
So it's real world.
British Bake Off. It's like real world, but
Almost,
without
yeah.
any of the sound effects and any of the music, like the crazy, like, and without any
I'm
of the
talking about original
Americans.
real
You know what I
world,
mean?
not
It's
Disney
like
Like,
more
World.
sincere and sweet. Like everybody is very, very polite. Like,
yeah,
everyone is
because it
just
takes
so
place
polite
in
with each other.
Japan, and they're all
Yeah.
Japanese, and so instead of being incredibly in your face with the reality of it, they're instead just like,
Talking about.
I
their
have not had a
emotions.
boyfriend in many years, and it is, I'm a little lonely. Sometimes at night, I wish I had someone to be with. And then like another one's like cut to, and they're
Aw.
like, I like this guy. I do not know how I will tell him. I feel like if I tell him now, I might spoil my opportunity. He might think I'm too forward. I don't know what to do. And then that's just like, it's just really
Japanese
easy
people are too
watching.
proper.
Yeah.
And there's only like 10 episodes or something, and me and my girlfriend, each episode's like,
Cool.
I think it was 40 minutes long, right? Is that right? Or are they
They're pretty-
30?
yeah,
Mm.
they're
It
pretty
It
decent
wasn't that
length,
long. It wasn't a full hour, but it was, whatever. But it's all, you got to watch it with the subtitles, obviously, because they all speak in Japanese. But
Pay attention.
it's good. There's one of the guys in the house is like Japan's most premier go-go dancer. Like he's a Chippendale dancer guy, and he's like the best one in the whole country apparently. And when he comes into the house, they're like, "Oh shit, it's so and so! Like I know him. He's crazy." And then it turns out he's actually very shy and reserved, and spends most of his time working out and drinking milkshakes that are literally like cooked chicken that he puts in a blender with a little bit of water because he's like, I have to intake a large amount of calories to maintain a physique this size. You guys understand, don't you? And they're just like, of course, makes sense. But yeah, it's on Netflix. It's like it turns out this is like the newest season of a long like series of Japanese reality TV shows that involve single people living with one another. But yeah, so look it up. It's cool, fun, touching, sweet, kind show that I really liked. Yeah. So that's it for me. Buck, what else have you got for us this week?
2 things. I beat Order of Ecclesia, that third DS Castlevania game. It's actually the only that came out on that Dominus collection for new consoles and download and stuff. I never beat the third one. I own the other 2, so I was like, that's really cool. I got to play that. So I played all 3 of those. God, they're so good. The other one is I'm going to share with you guys, and I'd love for us to share what the stream is. Retro's got a giveaway going on. Retro Game Treasure is giving away an original boxed Sega Genesis in the box.
Wow.
Nice. Genesis 2 in the box.
Brother, that's a nice piece of hardware.
That's pretty cool, huh? Yeah, we got about a month left in the giveaway. There's tons of ways that you can enter if you follow the link that Mac will provide and can show. We've been sharing it on our social as well a bunch. But you can earn entries by all kinds of stuff. You can visit us on Facebook. You can visit the podcast and get entries. You can tag a couple friends. If you subscribe to our service, if you're a subscriber, you already get 5 bonus entries into the giveaway, which is super cool. And when you get your Retro Game Treasure at the end of the month, if you take a picture with it and share it on social media, you can get 5 bonus entries for doing that too.
Nice. Which of the model? You said it was the 2. Which of
the
those
one
on your desk is that one? Is that the side by side, or is that
actually there isn't one here? It would be the side by side one that's a little bit smaller. So it's like pretty much the best one. It's the smaller form factor, but still works with the Sega CD and the 32X if you wanted to get them.
I'm doing a server wide ping on the Discord.
Nice.
Hey, that'd be fun.
Hey,
we already had a lot of entries on it, so it's good. I'd love to see a lot of people getting excited about it.
Hell yeah,
very nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Raph, what else have you got for us this week?
Well, I got a couple of what else you got here. So I took a trip to my local friendly retro game shop today, and I picked up one game because I was like, you know what, it's $10, never played it, I should probably pick it up. I got Dragon Warrior.
Nice.
Yeah, never played it before, so I was like,
that's
hey.
a really good game.
Yeah,
that's a fair price for Dragon Warrior too.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, $10, might as well. Really excited to play this one. The other one that I got is one that I've been looking for a minute, and they finally had it again over there. So I got Super Castlevania 4.
Oh, this guy.
That's a good game.
Raph, you're on a roll, bro.
That's a good game.
Yes.
This man's got good taste in video games.
I'm really excited to jump into this. That's probably what I'm going to be doing.
No, you're just going to fire it up, and you're going to watch and listen to that intro, just like we did on the...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that intro was sick. That's like one of the reasons that I was
that
like,
intro literally made you go buy it.
Yeah, I'm going to get this already. Like, I was looking for it for a little while, and like,
Beautiful.
I know that they told me
put
that
the
when they
nail
get
in
this,
the coffin.
Yeah, the nail in the
did
coffin,
not.
you would say. Yes.
All right, Dad. Enough. That's enough.
When I went to
off.
look for this, the guy was like, yeah, I mean, like the guy at the store was like, yeah, when we get them, they go pretty fast. I was lucky enough to find a copy there, but
same goes for us. If we get those in every month, they are gone.
Yeah. I almost picked up Simon's Quest 2 because I've never played it, but I've heard that one's kind of like the more Metroidvania of the old ones.
I mean, yes, but it's more like it was part of that era where if you don't have a Nintendo Power, you ain't getting more than 1/3 of the way through that game.
Yeah. Which
no way.
I got the internet, I guess, but still,
yes, you have to use Game Facts.
I decided not to, but this is the one that I don't know. I'm very excited about this one. So that's what I got.
Nice. Mr. Venecor, have you got anything for us this week?
I really don't. I've been dealing with kind of a family emergency the last few days, but I did get to play some great rounds of Hunt Showdown with Buck over the last few days. And Dead by Daylight Another one of our favorite online games is doing a Castlevania themed, crossover themed, lights out version where it takes a lot of the information away and it's very Castlevania themed. You have the Castlevania
fun.
candelabras, and the rewards are actually Castlevania themed crossover rewards. So just been
Nice.
doing a little of that, not much else, and everybody's fine. Everybody's fine. We're good now,
Good.
and we'll be back at it next week.
Hell
Excellent.
yeah.
All right. Well, I believe that does it for this episode, gentlemen. We have completed yet another. Thank
Guys,
you.
by the time this episode airs, we have 500 subscribers.
Most likely.
My
That's
man.
yeah.
Most
We
likely.
need like 3 more, so I think by the time this airs, we have
That
500
is
subscribers.
most likely true. We just need to get some more watching
Streaming.
hours. Hey, do us a huge favor, like and subscribe. Speaking of 500 subscribers, and if you're just listening to this on Spotify, or if you have the, in your phone and you're doing the dishes, maybe you can just go like us on Instagram. So that way, as you're just doom scrolling through your Instagram, you'll catch a short every now and then and say, "Oh, look what he did with he zoomed in on that silly face. Isn't that funny?" Stuff
They're
like
pretty
that.
good. I think you're not to toot your
Yeah,
own
I
horn,
think-
but I think you're pretty
They're
good.
pretty funny. Sometimes I'll put in extra sound effects and stuff too if I want. Finally, we still want you guys to reach out at our email. Email us at gametreasurepodcast@gmail.com with any questions you might have for us or any game suggestions. I thought about that too. If you want to tell us about a game, maybe you made a game or something. I don't know. Maybe your friend made a game. Maybe there's a really indie game that you like and you want us to talk about it and use our platform to talk about it. Email us at gametreasurepodcast@gmail.com. You can find links to that and more at our linktree /the GTP. I believe there's a link for the King of Video Games t-shirt on there right now. We want to thank Crunkwitch for the use of our theme song, Clash of the Droids. You can find them on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you can find music on the internet for the most part. And of course, we would like to thank RetroGameTreasure.com, owned and operated by the Megabuck, as we already stated in this here episode, as ordained by he's the only reason he would have that many Sega Genesis. If he was just obsessed with video games. Retro Game Treasure is a subscription service that sends collectors custom boxes of retro video games every month. It's just as he said earlier. This service is meant to easily grow a collection for you. It's maybe not for finding the $100 PlayStation game that's super rare, right? It may not even be for finding the $50, right? This is more for you have a console or consoles that you love and you just want to try different stuff. You want to try Robotron. What a cool, fun, deep dive, deep cut that game. If you like the Super Nintendo, there's all sorts of deep cuts. If you like if you like anything, there's deep cuts for these things. So the way it works is you go to www.retrogametreasure.com, sign up, make your profile, tell them what kind of games you like, what kind of genres. You can tell them subgenres, Pokemon, Mecha. We've gone over the awesome, amazing subcategories that Buck has created for this. And using those, you ensure that every month, the box of games that you get is games that work, games that you don't have, and games that you most likely will enjoy playing. So go now to RetroGameTreasure.com because they've been obsessed with video games since 1985. And with that, I say, my name is Max Stein, and I love the Game Treasure podcast. It's so bad.
It's